I used to believe the biggest source of drama in a quiet suburban neighborhood was someone parking a few inches over a property line. The kind of nonsense that leads to passive-aggressive emails, forced smiles, and awkward small talk at block parties. Turns out I had no idea how wrong I was. Because at exactly 3:07 a.m. on a brutally cold February night, I woke up to the sound of my backyard fence being obliterated by a luxury SUV. And I'm not being dramatic. It sounded like a small explosion went off behind my house, with cracking apart, metal screeching, glass exploding, a deep, violent impact that shook the windows and jolted me awake like someone had thrown a bucket of ice water in my face. I shot straight up in bed, heart pounding, brain still foggy with sleep, trying to figure out whether we were being robbed, attacked, or if the house itself was coming down. My wife, Lauren, grabbed my arm and whispered, "Ethan, what was that?" I didn't answer her. I just grabbed the first clothes I could find, jeans, a hoodie, boots with no socks, and bolted downstairs like a bargain bin action hero who forgot half his gear. The backyard motion lights flicked on, flooding the yard with harsh white light. And that's when I saw it. A silver Lexus SUV sitting in my backyard, buried deep into what used to be my fence, like it had been launched straight through it. My brand new cedar fence. The one I'd spent 2 full weekends building the previous summer, sweating through 90-degree heat, leveling every post, double-checking every measurement, making sure it was flawless. Now it looked like the aftermath of a crash scene. Post snapped clean in half. Panels ripped apart and scattered, splinters and debris littering my driveway like broken bones. And standing right in the middle of it all, in heels, a designer coat, and full makeup at 3 a.m, was Vanessa Clark, the president of our HOA. She was pacing back and forth with her phone pressed to her ear, looking irritated. Not shocked, not embarrassed. Irritated, like she'd just spilled coffee on herself. I stood there for a moment, breath fogging in the freezing air, trying to process what I was seeing. This woman had just driven her $90,000 SUV through my fence, and somehow she looked like I was the problem. "Vanessa," I called out. She didn't even look at me, just raised one finger. "Hold on." Then straight back into the phone. "Yes, there's been an accident. Maple Ridge Drive. No, I'm fine, but there's significant property damage." Property damage. Like she clipped a mailbox. I stood there in the dark, boots half-laced, staring at my destroyed yard while she calmly recited details like she was placing a food order. When she finally ended the call, she turned to me and let out a long sigh. Not an apology. A sigh. "Ethan," she said slowly, dragging out my name, "we need to talk about this." "Talk about it?" I pointed past her. "You drove through my fence. Are you hurt?" "I'm perfectly fine," she said, brushing imaginary dust off her sleeve. "But the roads are awful. Black ice everywhere. Honestly, it's a miracle I'm alive." Then she pointed toward my driveway. "With all due respect, this could have been avoided if you had properly maintained your property." I blinked. Once. Twice. "Excuse me. You didn't salt your driveway," she continued, explaining it like she was teaching a child basic math. The ice spread into the street. My car hit it. I lost control. This is the direct result of negligent winter maintenance. I just stared at her, my brain buffering like a broken loading screen. "You're saying you crashing into my fence is my fault?" "Yes," she replied calmly. "According to Section 14.6 of our community covenants, homeowners are responsible for preventing hazardous runoff and ice accumulation." That's when it clicked. This wasn't just an accident. This was an opportunity. An opportunity for Vanessa Clark to transform herself from the woman who wrecked her car into the victim of an irresponsible neighbor. Classic HOA behavior. If you've ever lived under one, you know the type. Vanessa had ruled Maple Ridge Estates like her personal kingdom for 5 years. Trash cans out too long? Violation. Wrong shade of beige on your house? Violation. Kids drawing chalk art on the sidewalk? Warning notice. She once fined my neighbors $75 for excessive wind chimes. I wish that was a joke. So standing there in my destroyed yard, being lectured about my driveway, I realized she wasn't embarrassed or sorry. She was building a case. Sirens cut through the night as 2 police cars pulled up, red and blue lights reflecting off the ice-glazed street. And instantly, Vanessa shifted into performance mode. "Oh, thank God," she said dramatically. "Officer, I'm so relieved you're here." She launched straight into her version of events. I was driving carefully, well below the speed limit, when my vehicle encountered ice that had clearly spread from its driveway onto the roadway. She said, gesturing toward me like I was some kind of public menace, causing me to lose control. One officer looked at her, then at my driveway, then at the massive Lexus sitting in my yard. "Sir, is this your property?" "Yes," I replied. "Ethan Miller." She drove through my fence. I didn't drive through it. Vanessa snapped. I slid. The younger officer followed the tire tracks with a flashlight. They didn't curve. They went straight from the street, across the lawn, and into the fence like a guided missile. The older officer asked me, "Do you normally salt your driveway?" "Yes," I said, "but there was an ice storm. It started after midnight. I was asleep." Vanessa scoffed. Responsible homeowners monitor weather conditions. I almost laughed. Monitor the weather at 2 a.m. in my pajamas. The officers began documenting everything. Photos, measurements, while the night stayed painfully quiet. Measurements, written notes. A tow truck arrived, and Vanessa supervised the whole thing like a battlefield commander. Careful with the bumper. Watch the suspension. Don't scratch it. Not a single word about my fence. When the Lexus was finally pulled free, the full destruction was impossible to miss. Deep ruts torn to the yard, grass shredded, nearly 20 feet of fence completely gone. She walked over to me, chin lifted. "I'll be filing a formal complaint with the HOA tomorrow." "Of course you will. This level of negligence is unacceptable." One of the officers cleared his throat. "Ma'am, my report reflects that you left the roadway and struck private property." Her jaw tightened. The ice was a factor. "I'll note that," he said politely, which was cop code for nice try. By the time everyone cleared out, it was almost 4 a.m. I stood there in the wreckage, exhausted, frozen, furious. Lauren came outside with a mug of coffee. "She blamed you, didn't she?" "Yep." "Of course she did." By daylight, the damage looked even worse. Ice coated everything. Every driveway, every sidewalk, not just mine. I took photos from every angle, called my insurance company, then went to a hardware store for materials to throw up a temporary fence. So our dogs wouldn't bolt. That's when the second wave hit. My phone rang. "Mr. Miller, this is Susan Park with Maple Ridge HOA Management." "Here we go. You've been cited for an unapproved structure." "What?" "The temporary fence. It violates architectural guidelines. It's there because your HOA president drove through my actual fence." "I'm just relaying the complaint." She added that Vanessa had also filed a violation for negligent winter maintenance, and I had 24 hours to correct it. Correct what? The condition. The weather. Then came Vanessa's email. Subject line, violation notice, and damage assessment. She accused me of 3 separate violations, demanded $9,200 for damage to her vehicle, and gave me 30 days to pay. 30 days to reimburse her for crashing into my fence. I stared at the screen, heartbeat thudding in my ears. This wasn't about money. This wasn't about rules. This was about power. She thought she could crush me, and in that moment, I wasn't sure she was wrong. Let me pause here, because this is where most people ask, can she actually do that? Short answer, not the way she was trying to. Standard procedure is clear. When a vehicle leaves the roadway and strikes private property, liability starts with the driver. That's the baseline for police, insurers, and courts. Could ice be a factor? Sure. But legally, there was ice somewhere isn't the same as this homeowner caused the crash. For her claim to hold, she'd need proof that my driveway created an abnormal hazard, that it flowed into the street, and that no other environmental factor played a role. In an Ohio ice storm, good luck with that. And this is where psychology matters. Vanessa wasn't trying to win in court yet. She was trying to win in my head. Violation notices, deadlines, fees, official language, pressure, confusion, fear. The goal wasn't fairness. It was compliance. Wear me down until I paid just to make it stop. And the scary truth? That Tactic works on most people. After that email, after the $9,200 demand, after the violation stacking up like unpaid bills, I barely slept. I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, replaying everything, imagining liens, court dates, losing the house, all because someone couldn't admit fault. Lauren kept saying, "We'll figure out." But I heard the worry beneath her words. Then came the next strike, animal control. I was reinforcing the temporary fence when a white county truck pulled up. A woman stepped out with a clipboard. Behind her stood Vanessa, arms crossed, smiling like she'd ordered dessert. "Sir, we receive a report of dogs running loose." "They're right there," I said, pointing behind the fence. "This barrier doesn't meet containment code. It's temporary." "Then the animals must stay indoors." Warning issued, bright yellow, public, humiliating. As the officer left, Vanessa leaned closer. "This community has standards, Ethan. If you can't follow them, maybe you don't belong here." That was when something inside me snapped. Not loudly, quietly, like a switch flipping. I went inside, shut the door, and started calling lawyers. After 20 rejections, "We don't handle HOA disputes. Our retainer's $5,000. I found Marcus Reed, solo attorney, property law, office tucked near German Village. When I laid everything out, he didn't look shocked. He looked tired. "Textbook retaliation," he said. "She's weaponizing the association." My chances. Legally? Good. Emotionally? Rough. He explained my options. Fold fight or confront her at a board meeting. "I'll come with you," he said. "Sometimes that's enough." $1,200, 2 months of groceries. But peace of mind has a price. Thursday night, community center, fluorescent lights, folding chairs, 20 miserable neighbors. At the front, Vanessa, centered, confident, smiling like the ending was already written. When she saw Marcus beside me, her smile cracked for half a second. The meeting began. Pool maintenance, paint colors. Then she cleared her throat. Item 7. Violation hearing for 214 Maple Ridge Drive. My heart pounded. I stood. Marcus stood with me. "My name is Marcus Reed," he said evenly. "I represent Mr. Miller." Vanessa stiffened. "This is informal. Any proceeding involving fines allows counsel." One board member tried to object. Marcus shut it down politely, firmly, legally. Then he went to work. He asked for the exact covenant on winter maintenance. Vanessa read it aloud. Snow accumulation. Not ice. Not salting. Not midnight storms. He passed around photos. Every driveway iced over. Were any others cited? Silence. Selective enforcement is illegal. The room shifted. Eyes moved from me to her. Next, the fence. He asked about emergency approval. Denied. Based on what rule? Discretion. Discretion isn't arbitrary. Then witnesses. George, my neighbor. 2 more statements. Same story every time. Car left road. Struck fence. No unusual source. Vanessa's face flushed red. She slammed her hand on the table. "Enough. We've heard enough." "We haven't," Marcus replied calmly. "Robert's rules. Bylaws. Procedure." She hated that he knew them. Finally, she made her move. I moved for $1,000 in fines and immediate removal of the fence. Seconded. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. He simply informed. "If you move forward with this, we will file suit. Under Ohio Revised Code, selective enforcement retaliation, abuse of authority, and an attorney general complaint." He slid a draft lawsuit across the table like a chambered weapon. The board members leaned in, skimmed pages, whispered each other. One muttered, "I didn't sign up for this." Another said, "We should speak to legal counsel." Vanessa snapped, "He's bluffing." Marcus smiled, calm and almost kind. "I'm not." A motion to table was made. Seconded. Vote taken. 3-2 in my favor. Tabled. Vanessa looked like she'd swallowed broken glass. Meeting adjourned. People rushed for the exits. I exhaled for the first time in weeks. But Marcus warned me quietly. "She's not done." He was right. 2 days later, Her insurance denied her claim. They blamed her. So she doubled down on blaming me. A demand letter arrived from her personal attorney. $9, 200 plus emotional distress. Marcus laughed when he read it. This is panic. A week later, insurance finished their investigation. Official finding: she was at fault. My deductible reimbursed. My claim paid. Her claim denied. End of story, right? Not even close. That's when the Attorney General's office called. Multiple complaints. Pattern of behavior. Formal investigation. I handed over everything. Emails, notices, photos, statements. So did others. Doors, signs, dandelions, Harold's roof, Jennifer's paint. The dam broke. Subpoenas followed. 3 board members resigned. Linda came by my house and apologized. We were scared of her. A special election was called. Record turnout. Vanessa lost badly, 18%. She emailed the entire community claiming fraud. No one responded. Then came the criminal charges. Forged documents. False reports. Fake permits. Arrested. Mugshot on the local news. I didn't celebrate. I just stared at the screen like someone watching a storm finally move off the radar. She took a plea. Probation. Community service. Restitution. $5,000 paid to me. The judge didn't hold back at sentencing. Breach of trust. Abuse of authority. No place for that conduct in civil society. My fence was rebuilt. Tony did great work. A few weeks later, Vanessa, Patricia, drove by, slowly stopped, tried to inspect permits. I shut that down immediately. She left without a word. Months passed. Insurance checks cleared. Legal bills settled. The dogs were safe. The yard was whole again. Then one morning, a moving truck. Her house emptied. Lauren and I watched from the window. No cheering. No victory lap. Just closure. After it was all over. After the lawyer stopped calling. After the emails dried up. After the fence stood solid and life felt normal again, I realized something. What stayed with me most wasn't the money, or the court filings, or even the humiliation. It was how close I came to quitting. There were so many moments when giving in would have been easier. Pay the bill, tear down the fence, say, fine, you win. And that's what most people do. Not because they're weak, but because they're exhausted. The system is designed to wear you down. HOAs, in theory, exist to protect property values and manage shared spaces. Cooperation, community, but without accountability. They turn into tiny governments run by people who were never meant to hold power. Legally, homeowners often have more rights than they realize. But rights don't help if you don't know them, and they definitely don't help if fear keeps you silent. That's where people like Vanessa thrive. It's a classic psychological tactic. They don't hit you once. They cut you 100 times with paper, forms, notices, deadlines, fees, threats. Eventually, you start wondering if maybe you're the problem. You're not. The lesson is simple, even if it's hard to follow. Document everything. Ask questions. Get help early. Don't assume authority equals correctness. And don't confuse confidence with competence. One person nearly upended my life because no one had ever challenged her. She wasn't exceptional. She wasn't brilliant. She was just unchecked. And the moment she was challenged, she collapsed. What surprised me most was how many neighbors came forward afterward. People fined, threatened, harassed, isolated. That isolation was intentional. Silence protects bullies. Community destroys them. The moment we compared notes and spoke openly, her power vanished. So if you're watching this and dealing with an HOA nightmare, hear me clearly. You're probably not imagining it. You're probably not overreacting. And you're almost certainly not alone. Talk to your neighbors. Read your bylaws. Call your insurance. Talk to a lawyer before you're desperate, not after. And don't let anyone convince you that peace only comes from surrender. Sometimes peace comes from standing still long enough for the storm to pass. I didn't want to take down an HOA president. I just wanted my fence fixed. I wanted quiet. I wanted normal. But sometimes life drafts you into a fight you never asked for. And when that happens, you learn who you really are. I learned I'm more stubborn than I thought, more patient than I wanted to be, and stronger than I ever needed to be before. Today, Maple Ridge feels like a neighborhood again. Not a courtroom, not a battlefield, just people living their lives. And that's how it should be. Now I want to hear from you. Have you dealt with a nightmare HOA, a power-hungry board member, unfair fines, or harassment? Drop your story in the comments. Read each other's experiences. Support one another, because the more we talk about this, the harder it becomes for people like Vanessa to hide. If this story helped you, entertained you, or gave you something to think about, like it, share it, and pass it on to someone who might need it. And remember, sometimes the strongest thing you can do is refuse to be pushed around. Thanks for listening.